What do you think of when you hear the term blues or blues rock guitar? I know for me, I immediately think of slow blues like B.B. King or Chuck Berry, and then traditional fast blues like Stevie Ray Vaughan. These are players that mostly played traditional blues music, meaning that they put out songs that followed variations of the 1-4-5 chord progression. Now, when I started playing guitar, I was listening to a lot of rock music and listening to players like Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Billy Gibbons. This was likely because of their emotional, fluid rhythm and lead playing. What I soon realized is that almost all my favorite players had deep roots in the blues because they had learned guitar listening to the true blues players of their generation. They had taken traditional blues and transformed it into the rock music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Today, I want to break down the essence of blues guitar tone, technique, and theory. I'll demonstrate traditional slow blues as well as traditional fast blues rock, but I'll also trace its influence into rock music by demonstrating some of my favorite blues-inspired licks that you can take and use across genres like pop, rock, funk, etc. And stick around until the end where I'll be revealing some secret blues riffs that are hiding in some of the well-known pop songs you might know. Welcome to my channel where my focus is music education for the modern guitarist. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. Step 1 is to choose a guitar. The good thing here is that blues has been played on pretty much every guitar and pickup, so there really isn't any limitation on choosing one guitar over another. For Chuck Berry or B.B. King style blues, a humbucker equipped guitar can be used for that thick, warm tone. An alternate tone would be that of Texas blues, typically associated with a Stratocaster. You'll notice this tone is a stark contrast from the round, warm tone of the Gibson. However, what the Strat lacks in warmth and body, it makes up for with a certain sharpness that really cuts through a mix. If I could recommend anything, it would be to use your neck or middle pickup, but even that isn't a hard and fast rule. For the amp and pedals, there are a wide range of gain tones that players have used, from super clean to mildly overdriven and even like distorted fuzz tones. My recommendation here is just make sure that you don't use too much gain and rather emphasize the right frequencies, being like the mid frequencies. For blues and rhythm lead, a decent amount of mids will help give your guitar that standout quality, that kind of vocal singing quality. Make sure your selection of pickup, amp, and pedals combine in a way that's going to be rich in the mids. Here are a couple general facts regarding mids with common gear. Single coil pickups tend to have less mids, where humbuckers tend to have a little more mids. Fender and Vox amps tend to have less mids, where a Marshall style amp might have more mids. And then there are mid-boosting pedals like a treble booster, a tube screamer, a Klon, like a Noble's ODR1. These are all mid-boosting pedals, and that's why you see a lot of players that play Strats using these pedals, because they really beef up that mid-range for when you need to cut through the band. Traditional blues songwriting makes great use of a chord progression referred to as 1-4-5. If you're new to theory, those numerals relate to scale degrees of the diatonic scale. Simply put, there are 7 degrees before the scale lands at the next octave, and 1, 4, and 5 refer to 1, which is the root, 4, which is the subdominant, or like the 4th step up, and then 5, which is the dominant, which is the 5th step up. Don't get overwhelmed with scale degrees or the theory, just remember these 3 chords and how they relate to each other. Listen to this 1-4-5 chord progression in the key of A and follow along with the chord changes on the screen. Should sound pretty familiar to you. It's what most refer to as 12-bar blues. 1-4-5 chord progressions have been used all the time in all genres. The relieving feeling of 5-1 is like the cornerstone of Western music. As with all chord progressions, this can be played in any key, it just depends on where you start with the one chord. And for blues music, this chord progression usually just stays the same and just keeps going around and around and around until the song ends. Let's put this into practice with the first rhythm example. It's what I'd like to just call the rock and roll figure. Play the figure on each chord of the 12-bar blues progression, 1-4-5 in the key of A, so 1 is A, 4 is D, and 5 is E. This is a staple blues rhythm figure. It puts a little motion to the chords, other than just hitting straight eighth notes. Again, this can be played in any key, you just keep the relationship between the chords the same. The second rhythm example I want to show you, let's just call the Pride and Joy figure. This takes the 1-4-5 progression, but adds a sort of walking bass line along with some upstrokes to keep the rhythm moving. Feel free to modify or blend either of these figures, and these are obviously just two examples, but it should be enough to get you started playing some blues rhythm guitar. Let's quickly talk about blues lead theory. The scale we will use is called the pentatonic blues scale, or the blues scale. It's a minor pentatonic scale with an added flat 5. Here it is in 2 octaves in the key of A. The 1-4-5 progression is great and is used for blues because a vocalist or a soloist can use this one root note scale to create melodies over the entire chord progression. Now I'm going to show you 3 licks, all in the style of a different blues guitar player, but all using the same scale and the same key over the same track. This way you can see how important the phrasing, rhythm, and inflection of the playing is. This is really what defines a guitarist's style, and ultimately you will take all of these things and blend them into your own unique style. Let's keep it consistent, 1-4-5 in the key of A. So A7, D7, E7. First up is B.B. King. B.B. had a clean, warm tone and played relatively short, single-note passages while leaving enough space for the band to come through in the back. He typically used a hollow body guitar through a loud, clean amp. He also had a great vibrato that he would use on his long sustained notes to really give you that emotive feel. Next up is Stevie Ray Vaughan. His playing was typically a little more aggressive than BB, and he had a little bit more overdrive and a little more of like a cutting, aggressive quality. He typically used a Stratocaster along with a tube screamer through a clean Fender amp. And last is Eric Clapton. lot of different tones over the course of his career, but for this example, I wanted to showcase his more distorted, fuzzy tone that he used on the live version of Crossroads. For this, grab a humbucker-equipped guitar and crank up your gain a little bit more than you would to really let the notes have a little sag and sustain. As promised, here are a selection of riffs from popular songs that I think are super blues-inspired. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope this video helped you gain a little understanding on traditional blues guitar and also how it's woven into modern rock and pop music. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know by hitting the like button, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe and ring the bell so you'll be notified when I post a new video. I'm going to post the backing tracks that I used on my channel as well, so feel free to check them out and practice along using the techniques I showed you in this video. I hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, take it easy.